Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We're getting started, inshallah. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Brothers, please. Alhamdulillah, this is our sixth Sheikh and Shai this term. Alhamdulillah, we have brother Mohammed Vedut with us today. It's his second time with us. The first time was the BOT event where he gave us a beautiful speech. Today it's the second time with us. He's also a UW graduate, alhamdulillah. So before we start, sisters, you have the QR codes if you need to ask us any questions. And you can also raise your hands. Brothers, you can raise your hands and I will tell you to ask your question. So let's get started. Today our topic is how to be a good ambassador as a Muslim, alhamdulillah. And before we get started, just want to ask you about your personal experience with being an ambassador. Alhamdulillah, you were a UW student back then, and now you are back here with us, giving a small lecture. So how was your experience being an ambassador of Islam, and what would you recommend for us to do as students?
It's a big question. Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, amma ba'd. So thank you guys for inviting me here again. It's always nice to see young people, participating and learning their deen, bettering themselves, having social events, getting to know each other. I think this is very important for all of you and for all of us, inshallah. The question is about being an ambassador of your deen. And I think it has many different levels, right? Some of us think of it as setting an example for the outside world. Some of us think of it as, wearing something, a piece of clothing. Maybe it's something that represents the deen or something that we stand for. Some of us, maybe it's your hijab. It's a religious, thing that you wear, right? And in some cases, it could just be your adab, or how you act, and how you are, and how you engage. So there's different levels of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, He calls us a specific type of nation. Allah begins in the second juz' which starts in Surah Al-Baqarah. It's on about the page 20, between I think 21 or 22. سيقول السفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها قل إن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها قل لله المشرق والمغرب يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط المستقيم. He begins by the change. This ayah begins by the change of the qibla at that time. And I don't want to get into that tafsir and what happened in the incident or whatever, but the ayah after that, he begins to talk about what type of nation are you. You are the ummatan wasata, the middle nation. لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ, so that you may become examples, witnesses to people outside, to people out there. وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا, and the Prophet ﷺ is our witness, is our example that we take to the outside world. So this is the beginning of what is an ambassador of this deen. It is that you are the middle nation. What does a middle nation mean? It means that we are individuals of balance. You scroll through Instagram and everybody talks about the Dubai bling, or what is it called? Dubai life, right? All of you probably in your head somewhere, deep down in the brain cells, are thinking about, I wish I could move and leave, right? And I'd be over there, and I wish I could be in Saudi, and I could be over there. You haven't seen these countries. I know I'm on video here, so let's cut this part out, you know what I'm saying? You haven't seen the reality of these nations. I understand from an Islamic perspective that we want to be closer to Muslims, and we want to be in an Islamic environment, and we want to pray in the beautiful masjids and all of that. But I think the individual who's an ambassador, the individual who is determined by his middle nation, the individual who is balanced, he doesn't think this way. He says, or she says to himself, if I have an opportunity and it makes sense and Allah wills, then inshallah it will happen. But right now, what do I have? I have what I have in front of me. And I have to be thankful to Allah. I have to say thanks to Allah. I have to say Alhamdulillah for what I have. I have to say Alhamdulillah for the community and the environment that I am in today. And I have to maximize the opportunity that is in front of me right now. Let me tell you about the people that failed when I was growing up. The people that failed, and when I say failed, I mean they took a different path in life. They took a very ignorant, arrogant, misguided approach to their life. They are the individuals who did not appreciate where they were, number one. They were the individuals who did not take advantage of what they have. If you ask me today, Brother Muhammad, you learned Arabic, you memorized Quran, you learned the deen, you're doing khutbahs, you're doing all these lectures and all this stuff. Everybody looking at me like as if I went and I studied overseas and I came back and now I'm knowledgeable. No, that's not true. What happened is that when I was living here in Waterloo, believe it or not, we would go to the masjid, Waterloo Masjid. At that time, it was a different kind of masjid. Now it's, a little different, but that's my own opinion here. We go to the masjid, or any other masjid. There was a couple of musallas and institutions as well that we would go to learn Arabic and Saturday schools and otherwise. But we would take advantage of the individuals that were here. They were in the masjid. Somebody was a hafiz of Quran. We said, brother, sister, whoever it is, teach us. Let us learn from you. If somebody came and they were knowledgeable, they were from Azhar, for example. There was a few brothers. They came to do their PhDs in the University of Waterloo at that time. They were from Azhar. They studied the deen, actually, as part of their degree program. We said, come teach us. There were other individuals who studied in South Africa. They came and they gave classes. And we learned from them. So we took advantage of the environment that we were in. When I was growing up, what my schedule was? Tell me if you can relate. I highly doubt it, but prove me wrong. My mother, she used to take us to the masjid every day since I was as young as you could think, like grade 1, maybe kindergarten. We used to go to the masjid every day. At that time, there was only one masjid. It was Waterloo Masjid. Waterloo Masjid was one floor. There was like a sister's side and like a curtain. The masjids where they have like a curtain for the sister's side? That's what Waterloo Masjid was. One floor. You go down 2 steps and it was like the sister's side in the corner. And the parking there's no pavement. Okay, that's how it was back then. No other masjid. We used to go every day. And at that time, the masjid was about 25 minutes from where I lived. We used to go every day to the masjid to memorize to the Sheikh or whoever was teaching us at that time. Sheikh Abdurrahman, may Allah preserve him and give him good health. Somali. I used to go to a Somali Duksi, Somali brothers and sisters, you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying? Somali Duksi. I was like the only guy that wasn't Somali in this Somali Duksi. But my mother knew that this Quran class, we go. All right? So we would go and we would read to the Sheikh 2 or 3 ayahs. Drive 25 minutes to read to the Sheikh or Imam 3, 4 ayahs. Is nothing. If that was you, maybe today I'd be like, if I'm not going to go read a page, then maybe I'm like wasting time and wasting money and all these thoughts start coming to your head. We used to drive that far, that distance, back and forth to read to the Imam. I swear to God, and I still have my book. And it always said every 3 ayahs you would see in Juz' Amma and Tabarak, like you'd see There was like a line to say like, this is next for you, and this is next for you. 3 ayahs. Friday night would come, and we would go to a school called Al-Manar School at the time. And we would go to either Arabic or Islamic studies. It would alter between Friday and Sunday. On Saturday, we would spend from 8 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. We would be at Arabic, half Islamic school. And we'd be learning from individuals who were of some knowledge. You know, they had knowledge or experience, and they were teaching and they were volunteering their time. That's how we grew up. When we got to university, we weren't doing the same thing, same level, but we were doing some of it. You know, maybe at that time you've memorized some and you're able to be more independent about your Quran. Perhaps, right? Now you're attending more lectures to learn. So, when it comes to being an ambassador, it's about, number one, you are the middle nation. Be balanced people. Be balanced about your life. Take advantage of what you have in front of you. Don't look to the other side. The grass is not always greener on the other side, believe me. Some of it's desert. All right? Really. Don't think like that. Don't believe what you see. Don't allow, all this social media to cloud your judgment. Your judgment is not based on what you see on your device approximately 8 hours and 36 minutes a day or a week or whatever that average time is that calculates on your phone. It's not that. It's about the book of Allah. What is it telling you? That is your reality. Allah is telling you, you are balanced people. You're not this way, you're not that way. Who cares you don't have the biggest house in the world? Who cares you don't have the nicest car? Who cares you don't make as much money as other people? I've seen people chase money. I've seen people make money. I've seen people have nothing. And they've been the most successful. In both cases too. I'm not saying that you can't be rich and successful, but you can be. But it takes how you balance yourself to do that. So, those are the two things that I will say about what it means to be an ambassador. And the third thing is that you take those two things, you internalize them, and then you become the example for the rest of the people. Because now they're looking at you. Now they're going to see how you live your life, the things that you think about, the things that you admire, the things that you talk about. These are important things. If you're okay when a couple of friends have a certain way of speaking, and maybe there is profanity in their speech, they say a couple profanity words, because they're cool, right? And you say it too, because you're cool now. Guess what? You're just like them, failures that they are. That's what you are. But in your head, you think that you belong. You think that I've been accepted because I speak like them now, because of a little profanity in your mouth. That's not setting a good example. You didn't understand what it means to have adab and character in this deen. Adab and character go a long way. It is the thing that will bring blessing to your life. It is the thing that will make you successful in whatever it is that you're doing. So, the last thing that I will say is, being an ambassador is about no compromise. We don't compromise in this faith. No matter what. We have differences of opinion. That's fine. This is from the ni'mah of Allah, that we have differences of opinion on matters and what we should do. But we don't compromise in this faith. This is what happens to the world that you see today. The world that you see today, what's going on around the world, in Palestine and Lebanon now and Sudan and nations, we don't even know what's going on. All of what you see is a result of individuals who compromised their deen. Individuals who compromised their soul. You're seeing it in front of you. The reaction to this, okay, and don't take this the wrong way. The reaction to this is not, I'm going to dress up a certain way now, and I'm going to hold some flags, and I'm going to go to protest. By all means, you can do that. But the smart individual, he understands, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. The smart individual knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change the situation of a people, will not change the situation of your nation until the individuals of that nation, they change themselves. They change what is in their hearts. That's the last point that I will make about being an ambassador, that it is something that is in your heart. You have to change yourself. If you're doing all this work, you're going out and you're asking for justice and doing all this stuff, fine. Continue to do that. No problem. But number one priority is not this. The priority is, you want change? Change yourself. Why? Because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Al-mu'min lil-mu'min kal-bunyan yashuddu ba'dahu ba'da." The Muslim on another Muslim, or the Muslims towards each other, are like a brick wall. You see the brick wall here? Right? You see how they're stacked? You see how they support each other? That is what the ummah looks like in its perfect form. Let's say there's a hole in one of them, or one of them gets contaminated, and one of them is like this and like that. Eventually, this thing will collapse. So you need to understand that you are a piece of the puzzle. If you, as an individual, set a good example, guess what? Somebody's listening to you. Somebody's looking at you. And they're going to think, I should be more like that. I should be more like this person. Look what this person's doing. They got up to pray. They didn't care about what time it was, or that they were sitting here or doing that. They just went and did it. They weren't embarrassed. So this is what it means to be an ambassador. Sorry, I don't know how many questions you have. This was
it's
big,
mashallah,
big
perfect,
question, yeah.
perfect. Just to comment on one of your points, in the context of students, right here, the majority of attendants are students. We already have at least one path in our overall view, one path which is to get into a position of power, or get into a position in our own respective fields where we can make a change. So we're taking our education seriously, and to some extent. So how can we overcome the peer pressure that we get from our classmates, or whatever group we're working, or whatever team we are in our work, when they engage in, let's say, foul language, like we say. And more specifically, how do we shift it from us wanting to do what they do to making them do what we do, in terms of like proper akhlaq and Muslim akhlaq and Islam akhlaq?
I'm not sure I understood the question, but I'm going to answer it and you let me know. Your goal should not be to change or impact or set. We have too many Muslims right now that are misguided. And we're worried about how we're going to impact them. It doesn't make sense. You can give da'wah, but and you can give da'wah openly. That's good. You can give da'wah privately. Great. You can give da'wah at the booth. No problem. You could play Quran really loud. Great. You can also give da'wah by how you act, by how you are. So it's not really about them. It's about us. We're so worried about, like, how do I know you guys are students and you want to like give da'wah, and maybe like Ayura comes here once a year and all this stuff happens on campus. But start worrying about yourselves. What are you guys doing to support the other brother next to you or the other sister next to you? What are you doing? What have you done exactly? You name it to me. Look at yourself and you tell me, what is it that you've done to impact your brothers and sisters around you in a positive way? If you say to me that, you know what, I try to keep a smile on my face no matter what if I see somebody. Great. Fantastic. Continue doing what you're doing. That's your da'wah. When I see a brother, I give him a miswak. If I have some extras in my pocket, that's what I do. That's my thing. Great. I'm the guy who whenever I see that it's the time for prayer, I try to go right away and remind the people around me to go right away. Great. What's that one thing that you guys do to impact the people around you? And I'm talking about your brothers and sisters. Think about your brothers and sisters around you first. Worry about them first. Impact them first. Then tell me you want to give da'wah outside. Because if you can perfect this, you can do so much. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Alhamdulillah. So, focusing on your own community, on your own brothers, before you look outside, before you try to impact others. Alhamdulillah. Okay, another question is, how can we maintain humility? How can we maintain tawadu' when we are achieving success, a lot of us in school and also in Islamic knowledge? How can we maintain tawadu' and keeping our humility, keeping ourselves humble and ensuring it does not lead us to arrogance when giving, let's say, da'wah for within our community?
Okay. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he says, "Man tawadha'a lillah rafa'a." Whoever is humble before Allah, Allah will increase him. Maintaining humility. Okay, I'll give you an example. And I just told the brother here an example. You have this, let's call this a halaqah or something, right? Or some sort of gathering for Muslims. What if only one person showed up to this? And you guys were, running this thing. Ask yourself, what would be the reaction? Oh, we're going to close this and cancel it, right? Or business as usual. Guess what? Next time we're going to do our da'wah or for our marketing or whatever, better. And we're going to get 2 people next time. The numbers should never be the goal. That's one aspect of the way you should think. It's not about how many people did I impact. How many followers did I get to? How many views did I get? How many people saw this? I don't care. It doesn't matter. Even if one person was able to see it, not even if it was an hour lecture, they watched 5 minutes of it, or whatever it was, that's enough. That's what humility is that you don't care about the outcome. You don't care how big it was. I ran a charity event. It was a dinner for 200 people, but only 5 people showed up. Do I cancel the dinner? No. We tried to raise $100,000 for the masjid or whatever, some cause. We only raised $200. Do I quit? No. You put the effort. You're not worried about the outcome. The only outcome that you're worried about is what's in here. If the outcome in your heart is you did it truly for the sake of Allah, you did it in humility to Allah, then you have nothing to worry about. Who cares what happens in the actual thing? It doesn't matter. People are so caught up and worried about how many people saw my photo these days, or how many people saw this event, or how many people attended. Don't worry about the number. You do the best that you possibly can. Find all avenues. Renew your intention, and you will find yourself you get there. And it'll happen by itself, inshallah.
Inshallah. Is there any questions from the brothers? Yes, Razia.
So a little bit of touching on the last point you mentioned about sharing things. Today, the society we live in is very sharing focused and telling people focused, whether it be like Instagram posts or in our like kind of co-op way, like LinkedIn posts or stuff like this. And obviously we want to kind of, when we as Muslims get into positions that are beneficial for us and beneficial for, you know, helping people or do things like this, we want to like let people know that kind of Muslims are involved in the community and doing this stuff as well, right? But again, we don't want to be like bragging or, you know, overshowing stuff like you mentioned. So is there a way to kind of find that balance, or should we more just refrain from sharing anything that we're doing?
A couple of issues with your question, because you said some things that are great, and then you said some things that I would question, right? Which is, and I'll start with the things that I question, right? Why do I need to show anybody, right? Why do I need to prove that we're involved in anything? That's my first question, right? And you might say, well, brother, it impacts how much funding we get, it impacts the support that we receive, it impacts all this other stuff. Fine, there's a metric, I get that, no problem. But the second part of your question is, you know, should we stop promoting? No, promotion is not my issue, right? Promotion is not the issue. You can share and like and subscribe and whatever you got to do, fine. In person, on the phone, text message, hey, tell this person about that event, no problem. These are all avenues to achieving the goal that you're looking to achieve. They're related to the outcome, but they're not about the outcome. They're tools that you use to achieve a good outcome. But what I'm mentioning to you is, if all your efforts fail, you do all this promotion, you know, Sheikh here, he sends it to 10 people and they don't respond to him, and they say, yeah, I'm coming, or I do this, then don't worry about it. Like, don't be discouraged. Don't think that the metric is how many people show up, or how many people see this, or if we're doing the right thing or not. No, just do the best that you possibly can. And be faithful between yourself and Allah. And that's it. I'm just making it simple for you.
Yeah.
That's all.
So always judge it by the effort and not the...
Judge it by the effort. And you could be wrong, by the way. You could do all this and you could be mistaken in your approach, in your attitude, in the way you spoke to somebody. What do? You don't say, I'm right, you're wrong. What do you say? I'm sorry, you know, brothers, you have a habit of this, you know, because I've been in the MSA before. I'm sorry, sister, I spoke to you that way, you know. Please forgive me. Even if you're potentially not wrong, but you know you impacted someone negatively. That's what being humble is. Some of you are laughing. But this is the truth. This is the truth. If it was a kafir, would you speak the same way? If it was Kelly or Karen, would you speak the same way? No, man. You'd be holding your tongue before you said something, incorrect in today's society. Because if you never, you don't know what that person's going to do to you. You don't know what that person's going to say. But you're okay saying it to a sister? No, that's not right. That's not right. In fact, your sisters in Islam, you should be honoring them more than you are anybody outside of the deen. You should be in honor of your sisters. Your sisters are walking openly Muslim. I don't know if any of you are Muslim. In reality, I could take a guess at some of you, but some of you I don't even know. And they're the individuals that are openly Muslim. And they are struggling more than you're struggling. You can get away with anything, but guess what? When they make a mistake, it's open and public. So be kind to them, be nice to them, be soft with them, and forgive each other. You know, there's no need for this. This is how you humble yourself. If you think that I'm wrong in what I just said, then that is how you check your humility. If you think that you have a right, you know, when somebody says, why do I have to say sorry? I didn't do anything wrong. Lack of humility. And there's a hadith to support that, but you know, it's a long one. So
okay. Halwa, you had a question? Yeah.
I like the point that you brought up about quality over quantity, but to that, and I'll mention something like even in the non-distant past, the gratification that you get from things does kind of push you in a sense, but not in a good way. But then how do you change the mentality of turning the reason you're doing things from that gratification from humans to that gratification from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Okay, just to repeat the question so the sisters can hear. This question is basically how can you shift your sorry?
Mindset.
Your mindset so it pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not other humans.
So there's a hadith. It's a very scary hadith, and you know I remember this hadith all the time, almost like every day. I remember this hadith almost. You know, if I can just emphasize the importance of it. There will come a day, on the day of judgment, the first people that will be judged from among the believers. And there is 3 types. The first type is the individual who was a scholar. The second one, who was a hafiz. Anybody know the third one? Huh?
Generous.
There's variation. So there's generous person, there's ruler. Anybody else? Huh? A martyr. Right. The 3 that I'm referring to in the hadith refer to the martyr, the scholar, and the hafiz. But the others, you'll understand what that means. He will come on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah proud. And the scholar will be ready. And Allah will ask him, what did you do? He said, I was a scholar in your name, O Allah. I used to teach the people. I used to give lessons. I used to tell them. I used to remind them. And Allah will say to them that, no, you're a liar. You used to teach the people so that they could call you a scholar and a sheikh for the title. And the other one would say that I was a hafiz of the Quran, so I could lead the people in the prayer. And he would say, no, you're a liar. You used to recite so the people could say you have a beautiful voice. And the third person is the martyr who would die for the sake of Allah. Right? He died for the sake of Allah. Why? So that the people could call him a brave person, a brave man. And that he died in the cause of Allah. Right? When you impress other people, or when you're doing it for people, this is the ultimate, like worst thing that you could do for your heart, to do it for other people. I'll tell you when it does work though, for other people. When you say to me that I'm working hard in school, or I'm working at my job, or I'm doing this thing or that thing because I want to please my mother and my father. I want them to be happy with me. Well, guess what? In turn, you're doing it for the sake of Allah. That's one example, When you're doing something to serve your family or provide to them, you're doing it for the sake of Allah. But in actions that are not related to those things, that's where you have to be careful. How do you shift it? Be conscious of it. Double, triple check yourself. That's it. There is no formula. There is no formula for this. You have to be aware. You have to understand that you can't be arrogant about yourself and what you do and the actions you perform. You need to really feel what it means to do something for the sake of Allah. You have to understand this. The only way to do that, like if somebody's telling me they're struggling with doing things for the sake of Allah, I question a lot of things about that person. The quality of their prayer. Do they even have a relationship with the Book of Allah? Do they even care? What is their mentality? Buying things, making money, or what's the... I'm not saying making money is bad, by the way. Abu Hanifa was one of the richest scholars of the past. One of the most amazing... He was a businessman before he was a scholar, believe it or not. One of the richest. He wore the best clothing. But he didn't let that impact him. You know, there was many madhahib at that time. Many madhahib. It's not just 4. There was many. But the 4 that stand out are the ones Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved them. He allowed them to excel. Why? Because of the sincerity of those scholars. The largest followership in any madhab is Imam Abu Hanifa, who was a rich man. He had the dunya and the akhirah. But he never did things for people. He only was looking out for people. So, I know you want maybe a direct answer about how do I fix this, but you know, this is a lot of self-reflection. You really have to reflect. You have to ask yourself some deep questions. Why am I doing this? What's the point?
Yeah, I think this is very important, especially in the case where you start off with good intentions and then things start getting to you, even after some period of time, after getting so much attention, even though you started in the best of intentions. Yeah. We just had a question here. Sisters have a QR code. I don't think any, still not getting any
You have a
questions.
question?
No, there are questions.
Yeah.
Oh, here.
So a sister is asking, there's many ambassadors from Islam that come from diverse backgrounds. So how is your family's culture or heritage influenced your journey in representing Islam? So culture and representing Islam, how does that influence that?
I mean, I don't know about culture or heritage, but I had a mother who was like on my case all the time. You know, to this day, my mom, may Allah preserve her,
I mean,
she always reminds me about being arrogant, you know? Even after, like, sometimes she comes to my khutbahs, you know, sometimes. And after the khutbah, I'm like, she tells me, you know, how it went or whatever. Or she'll be like, oh, you repeated yourself. You know, I'm like, oh, Mom, it's a new masjid, come on. Or she'll say, you know, if she sees me too happy, she'll be like, what are you so happy about? You know? She'll be like, don't, you know, be careful. I'm like, okay, all right. Even though like I might not have any, you know, nothing happened, right? But she's on my case. You know, I don't think it has anything to do with culture or heritage. I've seen Muslims from very Muslim countries, very Muslim places, right? Very Muslim dress and wear and all this stuff. And you know, when you actually get to know them, they're the most un-Islamic people in the world. Right? And sometimes it has nothing to do with language. It has nothing to do with where the person's from. It's just what's your culture in the house? That's the question you got to ask yourself. If your culture in the house is we pray together, you know, we go to the masjid, like me and my dad, you know, we you know, may Allah preserve him, we have a habit. We go to Jumu'ah together, we go to Isha together as much as we can. You know, we do all these things. I have a culture with my brother. We do certain things together, right? At home when we're together, what's the culture? Are we praying together? It's a good habit. Or is somebody praying upstairs, the other guy praying downstairs, and mother is calling you 10 times, she gives up, then she goes and prays alone, right? What's your culture in the home? You have to ask yourself that question, not does being from this country or that country, how does that impact? That's not a question. It's the culture that you have created for yourself. What is that? Define that. Write it down. This is what I'd like to do. A day in a life of a Muslim woman, guy, girl, whatever. Write it down. This is the schedule I like to follow. And if you don't do any of those things, or if you miss one of those things, then maybe you're doing too much. So tone it down a bit. And when you get to a good level of consistency, add to your Islamic culture now. Add something. Maybe it's every week you go to a halaqah like this. Maybe that's part of your Islamic culture in your own house. Maybe it's you invite people to your house. Maybe it's you pray in the masjid. Whatever that is, define it for yourself. Break it down. Write it out and implement it. And inshallah, you'll find some use in that, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. There's a very nice question actually from a sister saying there's talking about your point about taking a break when you feel that your intentions are getting corrupted. I think she's referencing a hadith or a concept in our deen where I think the hadith goes that if you're doing a good deed and you think your intentions are becoming corrupt, that is coming from the shaitan, and that it's not you having arrogance. So you should try to disregard that. So is there a medium between leaving a good deed because you fear of arrogance and actually doing it and getting rid of this waswas?
The hadith is about when you have shak. Like if you have, shak means like,
Check doubt.
doubt, yeah, doubt. If you have a bit of doubt about, it's just like when I pray, I say Allahu Akbar, I pray. Oh, did I have wudu when I prayed? That's shak, right? Or I prayed and it was not my best prayer. Should I pray it again? That's doubt. I did something, I'm not sure if I did this for the sake of Allah. Maybe I should do it again. Or I should try again, or I should, whatever, right? That's how shak happens. When it comes to the a'mal that you're doing, consistency is key, right? Mm-hmm. Consistency is key. So if somebody becomes Muslim tomorrow and you tell them, come pray, and we're talking about khushu' in the salah and feeling the peace and all this stuff, and he or she prays one prayer and says, I didn't really feel khushu' in my salah. Why? Anybody? They prayed the first time. It was one time they prayed. If you pray for years, if you pray consistently, if you pray on time, if you take your time and you do all of the right things, guess what? You're going to get better and better and better in your salah and how you feel and how you act. Same with your Quran. You're terrible the first day that you're reading the Quran. Right? Terrible. No tajweed whatsoever. Don't even know the letters. Guess what? A couple of months go by and you're better than day one. That's consistency. Right? Now, what I'm referring to before was you're doing something and it's impacting what you're saying out of your mouth. It's impacting how you feel about others. It's impacting, let's say I do something for the sake of Allah, right? Quote unquote. I do it for the sake of Allah. And then I badmouth this individual because he does less. Or I say, oh, look at such and such individual. He's not even praying correctly. Right? But I'm doing khutbahs, Jum'ah, and then I'm saying these things, these foul things are coming out of my mouth. And maybe they're unintended. Maybe that they're not meant, I'm not meaning them, but they're coming out of my mouth. And I'm saying those things. There's action to support that there is arrogance in your heart. Not doubt. Doubt is something completely different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hope that's clear.
Mm-hmm. We had a question here behind you, Sahel. Or are you good? Okay.
Oh, sorry. One last thing. The waswasa, the doubt, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, if you perform something and then doubt enters your heart right away or in that moment, ignore it and continue to do what you're doing. Right? I just want to be clear about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Going back to being an ambassador of Islam, it often comes with leadership positions as an individual. If you want to be a good Islamic, usually, let's say, or in some cases, when you want to be a good Muslim ambassador, you're forced to take leadership positions. So, can you tell us about you wanting to take leadership positions? Does this affect your intentions? And how is that different than taking initiatives in your community?
So there's something called hubb al-ri'asa, love of leadership. That individual or this individual, they love being the leader. It's a disease, actually. They love leading. They want to be the leader. They want to be the guy or the girl that does 1, 2, or 3. They love that feeling. Right? The individual who's the best leader is the one, in theory, the one who is not seeking it, is not looking to be the leader. But maybe they're the best qualified individual to lead. And I'm not saying you shouldn't run elections and vote for the best Muslim president. What is it? MSA president. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like how you should approach it. So if you're finding that your heart is desiring to be a leader, you want to lead and you want to be the guy and all this stuff, right? Then it's a moment, not I have the nice voice, the nicest voice in the room, so I think I should lead, That's bad. That's not good. That's the difference between taking initiative and, seeking your own desires or your own love of yourself. So let's say that if it's about you, it's like I'm the best, I'm the greatest, therefore it's me. I have the best degree, therefore me. I have the best program, therefore me. I have the best voice, therefore me. Rather, it's about the people. It's about your brothers and sisters and how you benefit them. If you're the best, sorry?
What if it's like I can benefit the most, I can benefit them the most because I'm the best. I will benefit the people who pray and salah the most because I am the best half, I know the most Quran. I don't really see the difference. Is it just the motivation behind it?
Yeah, the motivation. It's at the very beginning. Why do you think that you should lead? It's not about why you should think you should lead. It's that you're the most qualified. Right? And it's always better if somebody else promotes you and says, you know what, you should lead the prayer. Or somebody pushes you to do that. Right? Or somebody says, hey, you should run for treasury or treasurer guy, right? Because you're really good at this stuff and we can trust you. And I really like working with you. And I think everybody else would really enjoy working with you, right? That's different than, it's me, guys. No debate. You put your foot down, Very different. The internal motivation, the beginning of that motivation is very critical. What motivated you to put yourself in that situation? The moment you catch yourself, that's where you know. Just that moment beginning. At the beginning is the key. If you catch yourself, you're good. If you question yourself, good. If you don't even know and you don't even recognize it, that's bad. And that's why it's so hard, right? Because you don't know. And so you have to be always checking yourself as an individual. You have to you have to really look down deep into yourself all the time. Always question that you're not the best about anything and that you don't know everything. The same way when you go to work, right? You guys go to co-op, right? Mm-hmm. You go to co-op. Do you say you're the best? You don't say you're the best. You're there to what? Learn. Why? Because you assume that somebody knows better than you. So you always assume better of others. You always assume somebody knows more than you. The Arabs of the past, they say, assume that, other individuals or the individuals around you are like awliya, are like the best of people. They're the most knowledgeable, they're scholars, they come from the best families, the best jobs, the best everything. And you're nothing. Always make that assumption about anybody. And then you'll find yourself, your heart will become softer. You can evaluate how you speak, right? Are you a tough speaker? Are you always defensive? If you're always defensive, that's a disease, by the way. If you don't know how to keep quiet when somebody gives you feedback, or your mother, or your father, right? When they're telling you you're wrong, and you're probably 90% of the time you're wrong. And even when you're right, you're still wrong. Why? Because you're talking back. So those are the symptoms that you should look out for. If you're too defensive, this is a disease. You have to be careful. If you learn to stay quiet, that's when you can really evaluate yourself. Somebody says something to you, right? Or something really foul comes out of that person's mouth towards you. Do you react? Do you say something back? Do you hit them? Do you push them? What do you do? That moment, that's the moment of evaluation. When somebody says that they're going to do a fundraiser, and you stand up and you say, we're going to raise $200,000, right? And pushes people, to get there and to become successful. What's the motive? Why are you doing that? Why are you being so aggressive? What's the point of that? Is it really for the sake of Allah? Or is it for something else? To please others? You know the term people pleaser?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? People pleaser? Anybody know what that means?
Mm-hmm.
You always kind of want to do what makes the others around you like the happiest.
Yeah. Say it Islamically now.
You want to do what the people will make the people around you the happiest, but not necessarily will make Allah the
No.
Pleasing many masters instead of Allah.
Exactly.
Sorry?
Pleasing the master of the master instead of
Allah, please.
being making sure that you're pleasing Allah, not pleasing the people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's how you know.
Okay. Time for one more question. If there's no question from the brothers and no question from the sisters, ask one final question. So how can you incorporate values into mundane actions and day-to-day actions, especially from a university student side? Incorporate Islamic actions, whether it's in your classroom or also as a young employee in your co-op. How can you implement Islamic values? And by extension, be an ambassador of Islam.
I remember in my first co-op, I worked in a manufacturing facility, and they were making water heaters. Maybe you know like A.O. Smith. If you go in your basement, you'll see like a water heater. It's probably from them. They're one of the largest in the world. And I was a co-op student in the lab, right? So I remember that I told the lady that was working there, I told her, hey, listen, at about noonish at that time, I need to, and it was during lunchtime, so I would say, around noonish, I have to pray. And this lady, is not a foreign lady. She is like, the most Canadian person in the world. Okay, the most Canadian, that's Canadian as it gets, right? And if you've ever been in a facility like that, everybody's very like hardcore, old school, foul language, just very Canadian. Okay, this facility is like in the middle of nowhere. Everybody lives on a farm, like kind of thing, right? That's the culture that I'm in right now. And so she said, absolutely, no problem. So I got a little box, like a little piece of cardboard, and I laid it in front of me so that I could put my hands and my forehead and my nose on it. And I would face a specific direction. So she said, yeah, you can use my my office, this lab area, and it's quite dirty, but it's fine. So she let me use it. So I would go in there, I would face the Qibla, and I would pray. It takes me 5 minutes to pray, right? Max, right? And then what happened is that like after 2 days, this lady, she got me like a gigantic cardboard, like with a sajjada kind of cardboard. She made one. Sajjada cardboard, okay? And every time it was that time for prayer, she would put that cardboard direction of the Qibla, she would sweep the floor for me and make it all clean after she's done working in there, and she would leave the door open. I didn't tell her anything. I didn't say anything. I just asked for I just wanted to use her office for 5 minutes to pray. So the question was about how can we embody, right? Mm-hmm. How can we embody an ambassador of Islam? You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. Just be a good person. I was always very polite with people, dealing with them, speaking to them. I never spoke any profanity. I was always asking questions as you would as a co-op student, right? And tried to build a good relationship with people, right? That's it. And next thing you know, they're admiring you. Why? Because you're so disciplined before Allah. Who is this guy? He's going to pray? He's going to pray in this lab? Maybe she's thinking to herself, like, how's he going to focus? How is he going to... But subhanAllah, Allah has a way of working in every environment. He protects the believers, the true believers that are trying their best to do things for the sake of Allah. This is what I mean by don't compromise. We don't compromise in this faith. Ever. Don't ever, sisters, don't ever feel like your hijab is like, undermining you, or don't take Allah's decree upon you personally, because perhaps it has there's a reason for it. Mm-hmm. Perhaps Allah is trying to test you. Maybe He wants to see, are you going to pass or are you going to fail in that test? Maybe He gave you a hard time in that interview with your hijab or what you're wearing or your name. Like don't do this thing where you go M, like Mustafa, whatever, like, and M is like Muhammad. Like, don't do that. Don't let people call you Mo either. Don't say my name is Mo this. Don't do that. Don't. You know whose name this is? This is the best of creation. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't compromise on your name. Some of you have amazing names, beautiful names. And some of you, even if you're new to the deen, perhaps you're looking for an identity, a name that perhaps is good for you. And that's okay. And some of you don't. The ones that don't, will blame the parents. And inshallah, Allah will find another way to make you proud.
Inshallah.
So that's my advice to those individuals. There's a hand up there. Where's your words of encouragement? Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, I'm trying to be fair because you're Muslim. No, you should be giving me an advantage because we support each other. Mm-hmm. That's a thing, I'm not talking about discounts, although discounts are great. I'm talking that if I see a brother who comes into an interview, I'm not trying to be fair. I'm trying to give him an advantage, believe it or not. Because those kuffar out there are not giving you an advantage. You want to play fair? That's how you play fair. The kuffar don't care about you. And it's very clear with what's happening in the world. They could care less about you. So when you see another Muslim, brother or sister, next time, say salam. Give them an advantage to be happy. If you see them, if you're the hiring manager next time, and a Muslim applies, even if they're not qualified, give them a shot. Even if they're not qualified. Just to give them the feedback about what they can do next. And how they can improve themselves. Even now when I invest into startups, like in my own career right now, I always look for Muslim founders. And it's very hard to find, by the way. So if you have great ideas, I'd love to hear them. But it's very rare. But when I do find them, even if their ideas suck and they're just not great at what they do, I still talk to them. And I still give them advice so that perhaps they might be successful, maybe not in that venture, but in something else in the future, inshallah. So encourage each other, love each other, and do things with sincerity for the sake of Allah, inshallah. Wa akhir da'wana, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Thank you so much for coming. It was an amazing lecture, amazing talk, amazing questions from the brothers and the sisters. Alhamdulillah, thank you. Inshallah, we'll see you again next term.
Inshallah.
In another Sheikh and Shai.
Absolutely.
Inshallah.